Now, on Sunday, a German newspaper decided to share a trove of 13.5 million documents, now referred to as the Paradise Papers. Now, these papers, some of which come from a firm called Appleby, which was created to shelter our customers' money from taxation. Yes, that is their specific purpose. Hey, guys, we know how to shelter your money from your home country's taxes, effectively robbing the government. Go ahead and do business with us, right? It's all legal here. Now, these papers, of course, from this firm and others related to this firm, highlight a lot of schemes that many of the world's ultra-wealthy use to hide their money. Now, Senator Bernie Sanders, in a statement to The Guardian, decided to weigh in on this and said, quote, "The major issue of our time is the rapid movement towards international oligarchy, in which a handful of billionaires own and control a significant part of the global economy. The Paradise Papers show how these billionaires and multinational corporations get richer by hiding their wealth and profits and avoid paying taxes, paying their fair share of taxes." He also told The Guardian that Republicans in Congress were, quote, "responsible for providing even more tax breaks to profitable corporations like Apple and Nike. The same tax breaks," he said, "were being seized upon by the super wealthy members of Trump's cabinet, who, quote, "avoid billions in U.S. taxes by shifting American jobs and profits to offshore tax havens. We need to close these loopholes and demand a fair and progressive tax system." So, yes, what we definitely need, and Sanders is correct, we need a tax system that is fair and progressive. What we have is far from it, especially with the Republican tax cut. Now, I'm going to get into some of the details of that tax cut plan and show you kind of how it's adding to the oligarchy, right? It's called the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which is funny because tax cuts do not create jobs on their own. And it's likely to give an incredible amount of tax cuts to the wealthiest Americans. The Tax Policy Center, which is currently revising its numbers after an error, and will come out with something later on today, actually, found originally in its estimate that a majority of the benefit of the tax plan will go to the rich, while some in the middle class might see a tax hike. Now, I said that they had to go and revise their numbers. Apparently, they had not factored in the child tax credit, which is, of course, a credit that goes to the middle class, which means that the original estimate of most of the tax cuts going to the rich should be is fairly accurate. So I don't think we're going to see much change on that, as again, that most of the plan will end up favoring the rich. However, the middle class might save a little bit more money, as opposed to the previous numbers, which suggested that the that the middle class would end up getting a tax hike. Now, this is, of course, this is why, according to an NBC News Wall Street Journal poll, the GOP tax plan has about a 25% approval rating. It's because people think, and they look at this and they go, wow, yeah, that looks like it benefits the rich. In fact, according to that poll, 14% of Americans believe they'll get a tax cut, while 25% expect their own taxes to end up going up. Only 19% of Americans see the tax legislation will improve the economy. At the same time, 35% expect that it will substantially increase the budget deficit. Why? It's because they haven't figured out how to pay for it. When you can't keep paying, doing tax cuts for the rich and expect not to be able to pay for it, it doesn't make any sense. Oh, no, pro-growth, right? Pro-growth. Oh, the only growing will be the deficit and the bottom lines of the wealthiest Americans and the corporations. Now, there was another poll that was released last week that found that 60% of Americans also believe that this tax plan favors the very rich. So, yeah, tax cuts for the rich. They are part of the inequality problem that Senator Sanders is, of course, pointing out. You've got these loopholes, you've got the offshoring of money, and all that stuff. And, of course, that adds to the massive levels of wealth inequality, where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And see, these corporations, it's not enough for them. They don't want to pay their fair share. You end up paying for them. They get richer, you get poorer, and then they laugh all the way to the bank, which happens to be in the Cayman Islands. That's how oligarchy works. They use our money to rig the rules in their favor in order to make more money. How much is enough? How much is enough? You end up paying more. Now, the Joint Committee on Taxation also did its own report that shows that the GOP tax plan would end up including $1 in cuts for working Americans for every $4 in cuts for the corporations and the wealthy heirs. And by 2027, people in the middle class, some of them at least, will end up paying more in taxes than they do now. So it's an effective tax hike. While the wealthy, of course, continue to benefit from massive cuts. Make no mistake, this is oligarchy at work. Bernie Sanders is right. It's not just in America. Neoliberalism has taken inequality all over the world, but it happens to be pretty bad here in the States. So, what do? I mean, that's the problem, right? Well, for one, if we wanted to actually do anything, we've got to get money out of politics. I mean, look, you want to try and get tax increases on the wealthy through this Congress? No, it's not going to happen. It's doomed to fail, right? Especially under the system where wealthy donors give campaign contributions to politicians, and those politicians end up being indebted to those donors. So that's the first thing. And there are a lot of different plans to try and get the money out of politics. There's plans to go through and do an Article 5 convention in order to change the Constitution. And that's one of the ways that I personally support, but I suppose there are other ways to do that as well. Now, if those ways are successful, no matter which one you use, well, then you get the money out of politics, you can start running progressives who will actually make the tax code fair again, with tax cuts for the middle class and tax increases on the super, super wealthy. Now, unfortunately, until we can do that, we're going to continue to live in this new gilded age where the elite, where the oligarchy has unchecked political and economic power. It's not going to get better until we change the system. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.